Hello world, Omega here.
In this video, I will walk you through how to create a new recipe for the crafting system that comes with my Unreal Engine inventory system. We will use the demo content included with the asset for this lesson. The item we will make a crafting recipe for is the usable expansion token. When you use it, it unlocks one of the buyable slots in the player inventory. We are going to continue from where we left off in the quick setup guide video. We will use the wood and meat that we placed in the level during that video. Before you start this lesson, make sure you watch that one first. I included a link to it in the description of this video. Let's get started. To make a new crafting recipe, we enter all the details in a data table. Go to the Blueprints, Variables, Data Tables folder, and open DT_recipes. If your screen looks like mine, you are seeing the default recipes included with the demo content. I recommend leaving the demo recipes for now. That way you can reference them when you need to see how something works. Each row in the list is a different recipe. When you select a row, you can view and edit the recipe details using the form. Go ahead and click the Add button on the toolbar. This adds a new row to the data table with the default row name, New Row. Double-click the row name and change it to expansion_token_usable. This name does not have to match the item your recipe creates. I use the same name here because it is easier to remember later when I reference it internally. For now, let's start filling out the data for our new recipe. The title, description, and flavor text show at the top of the recipe window. The icon for the recipe comes from the first item in its yield. You can enter whatever you want in these fields. For this example, I will enter the following. Title, usable expansion token. Description, fuse components into a lightning charged upgrade chip, then use it to permanently open an additional inventory slot. Flavor text, pack makers insist the extra slot was always there. This chip just convinces reality to admit it. Next is context. This is where you define where the recipe can be crafted. For example, you can make it available from the player, from a specific workstation, or from multiple workstations. For this recipe, we will make it craftable from the player. Select the crafting context that has player in the name. If you want to change the context or add more context to the player, open the crafting configuration on the AC Inventory System component. This is the component you added to your player controller during the quick setup guide. Next is ingredients. This is where you define the items required to produce the yield. To keep it simple, we will use the items we already placed in the level from the quick setup guide. Use wood and meat _raw and set the quantity to 1 for each. Next is yield. This is where you define the items created when crafting succeeds. For this recipe, set the yield to expansion_token_usable with a quantity of 1. This is the minimum you need to create a new recipe. Now is a good time to test it, and then we will come back to cover the optional features and settings. Go back to your viewport and press play. Press the V key to open the player crafting window. Then select our recipe from the list. The crafting window shows the details you entered in the data table. Pick up the meat and wood, then craft the recipe. If the player crafting window does not open, something else may be using that input. In that case, you may need to rebind the input. See the key bindings chapter for help. If the window opens, but you do not see your recipe in the list, double check that you selected the player context. Also, make sure your player still has the crafting context assigned to them in the crafting configuration on the main component. If you have issues with the ingredients or the yield items, double check that the row names exist in your items data table. If you still cannot get it working, reach out to me and I will try to help you figure it out. Let's go back to the recipe data table and talk about requirements. By default, all recipes are considered unlocked, and they are available based on the context. In this version of the system, you can optionally control when a recipe becomes available to the player. When auto unlock is off, the recipe must be unlocked before it can be used. How and when it unlocks is up to you. When you are ready to unlock it, call the unlock recipe method on the player's crafting component. The demo content includes 2 examples of unlocking recipes. One example is the usable item,
Blueprint Adventures with Timmy,
which unlocks the Vial of Fire recipe when used. It reads the recipe to unlock from the item's dynamic data. The other example is a button that unlocks a recipe when pressed. In the demo world, this button unlocks the Meat Feast recipe. You can also give the player a clue for how to unlock a recipe with the Unlock Helper text. This hint shows to the player in the crafting window. There is a subchapter in the documentation focused on unlocking recipes if you want to learn more about it. Custom requirements is an advanced feature. It lets you require a certain player level, a crafting level, or any other criteria before a specific player can craft the recipe. This is handled by a function from a blueprint interface that you implement in your player controller. You can look at the Demo World player controller to see how it works. The Create a Recipe documentation also explains how to set it up and use it. Workstation tool requirements work the way they sound. In this version of the system, workstations can optionally use tools and fuel. Tools can be required, and they can also add bonuses to crafting speed and yield. When you want a tool to be required, like requiring a grill for the cooked meat recipe, add it to the workstation tool requirements map. The key is what we look for in the dynamic data of the item equipped in the workstation tool slot. The value is compared to that item data, and it must be equal or greater to past the requirement. The campfire recipes and the demo content use these tool requirements. You can learn more about tools and creating workstations in the Workstations subchapter of the crafting documentation. Next is craft time seconds. This sets how many real-time seconds it takes to craft the recipe. Fail chance is the chance that crafting fails, and when it fails, the ingredients are lost without producing the yield. For a 20% chance, set it to 0.2. At 0, which is the default, it never fails. Bonus chance is the chance of a great success. When this happens, the recipe creates bonus yield. When a bonus happens, each item quantity in the yield is multiplied by the bonus yield multiplier. UI sounds lets you change the sounds played when the recipe is crafted, when it gets a bonus, and when it fails. That is how you create a new crafting recipe for the crafting system included with my Unreal Engine inventory system. You can learn more about crafting in the documentation. If you have questions and you cannot find the answer in the docs, feel free to reach out. Thanks for watching and good luck with your game.